Hi, in this video we're going to cover Wordfence and how we work with that within WP Pipeline. Now Wordfence requires actually zero configuration. We just install it and it will actually run, and what it does, it will run a scan of our site once a day. Now we've got some options on the Just Do It list. First of all, let's just have a look at the Wordfence scan dashboard. So we'll just go and have a look at that. Now, at the moment I've got the evening shoes for women selected, but I could select some or all of these. Now the first time you go in, it may be empty because this actually says we'll do a scan approximately once every day. And the way it works is primarily it checks the WordPress core files against the WordPress repository to see if there's any changes. So this kind of particular scan is quite a specific type of scan. It's kind of what I call a back-end scan. So it's scanning the files that exist. It's not scanning the website at the front end. That will do that with something else. This is actually scanning the website from the back end, and it's checking that the files haven't had anything added to them or taken away from or changed in any way, which is obviously could be a sign that some kind of virus or some kind of infection has got into there, or some kind of hacking has got into the files if they've been changed. But it only checks files that are in the WordPress directory. So it can check all the actual main WordPress files. It can also check the WordPress plugin files and the WordPress theme files, but only if they are ones which are stored in the actual WordPress repository or the WordPress library for themes and plugins. So if you've got a third-party plugin, then it won't be able to check, see if that's changed, because it won't know where the original source files are to check it against. As I said, this will run automatically once a day, so you don't need to do anything, but you can actually start a Wordfence scan literally on a button here. So the first time you've installed it, if you want to, you can go into it and click Start a Wordfence scan. And if I do that now, it will actually start a fresh scan. As I said, normally we do this every day without you having to do this manually. Okay, so while that's running, I'm just going to look at some other options. So I'll just go back here for the moment. We see that there are some Wordfence settings. So let's just go to the Wordfence settings page for the same blog. And you'll notice here, if you want to have email alerts, you can add an email in there, but you don't really need it necessarily for that. You could end up with a lot of alerts, so you might not actually want to be alerted every time there's kind of a change going on. It's entirely up to you. As I said, you can put an email in there if you want. The main things we need to look at really are down here in the scans to include section, and that's because by default you'll see that it doesn't scan the theme files and it doesn't scan the plugin files against the repository versions. It just does the core file. So if you find any problems for any reason with your blog and you want to do a deeper check, you need to come down to these settings and select those two options, and then go back. Well, save those off, sorry, and then go back and complete your scan or redo your scan with these options set, and it'll just does a deeper check by checking the plugins and themes as well. Now, once you set one of those once, you can kind of leave it and then it'll automatically check all those as well. But obviously, if you have any themes or plugins that you have modified yourself, or they're modified versions of there, then of course they will show up as changes. So there's maybe some reason why you might not want to have those selected all the time. But if you're just using standard stuff out of the repository, then that's absolutely great, just the way to go. So let's just go back and look at the scan for a moment. Yeah, that's now completed. In this particular case, it says a scan complete. You've got no problems. If there were any issues, it would tell you down here. It would say scan complete, but I've got so many issues, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever issues. And then the actual problems would appear in a list under here. I'll come back to that in a short while and just give you an example of what that looks like. But for the moment, I just want to go back to the final option. And this is the important one, because what you can do now is you can actually do a Wordfence scan report, and what that will do, that will go and check all the scans that have run. As I said, they run daily, so they may be up to 24 hours old, but you can run this scan. And again, if I select the 3 blogs that we installed onto earlier and just run a short report on that, it will go off and check each of those blogs in turn. And again, the information will be shown on the right-hand side over here. And it will tell you if there's been any issues or not. So as you can see in this case, even issues were in, there's no issues, so there's nothing, no problem with the scan. Similarly with the next blog, and the same with the third blog, which is no great surprise to us here. As I said, if there were any issues, this would actually come up in flashing red and tell you if there are any problems. And if there are any problems, it also puts the check it link next to it, and you'll be able to click that and go directly to the actual scan report that has the problems in it. It looked like this. Okay, let's just have a quick look through the scan, just to pull out the important parts of this. So first thing it does is comparing core WordPress files against the originals in the repository, as we mentioned. So it'll always do that. Now in this particular case, it's skipped the theme scan and the plugin scans, because when I scanned this at that time, I hadn't selected those options. So as I said, when you select those options again, it will compare those files, those theme files, against the repository. And it will also scan for known malware files. So it has its own list of viruses or malware, and it will check those as well. So if you get any files that are found that are incorrect against the repository files, so the original source files, you will then get the option to, in this box down here, you will see the files listed, and one of the links on there will be the option to rewrite the original file back over it again, and that's usually the safest and best option. Before you do write anything over the files, there's also a link to which will show you the difference between the files, and even with very little or almost zero knowledge, you should be able to see whether it's kind of a malware infection or it's just a file that's actually got some differences for some other reason. Now, if they're from the repository, you should be able to overwrite no problem at all. The one to watch is if it comes up an error scanning for no malware files, you do get false positives on all malware scans, so you do need to be careful when you start replacing or deleting files or editing files. Now, that can be done. Just a word of warning there. This video isn't there to cover exactly how to remove malware, etc. That's an art and a skill on its own. But if it isn't something that you are familiar with or capable of doing yourself, then it's something you should look towards paying somebody for, or getting somebody the right skills to do that work for you. So that basically covers Wordfence. As I said, Wordfence is completely automated, there's no configuration to do. You can just install that and let it run, and then daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you want, you can just run a report and see if there's any issues showing up.